Hello there, YouTube. Devin here again, and today we're doing another uniform review on what is a pretty awesome uniform, actually, and I think is pretty standard for the time it came out. Incredibly long service life, pretty close to 50 years, actually. And that would be the Finnish M62 uniform. This one I'm wearing is kind of an older one. There's a couple different iterations with some slight changes. Tons of pattern variations, okay? It was never fully replaced by the uniform that technically came after it, which would be like the M90 or M91 uniform, which is basically just a more consistent shaped and colored pattern of the M62 uniform. The M62 uniform would see service as a reversible camouflage and over white uniform, as you can see here, under the collar and the lapel here, as a reversible over suit, basically. That would go over, at first, the M36 uniform, and then in 1965 would be made to go over the M65 uniform as well. It's a uniform that served from 1962 well into the 2000s, actually, and wouldn't be fully replaced until the M05, which is Finland's current standard pattern, would come out in 2005. I have a couple different things to show you here between the blouse and the pants, and I've got two different blouses. This is kind of an older pattern blouse, and then I have a slightly newer pattern blouse from 1971. This one is probably from the 60s, if I had to guess, the later 60s. So they're made just a few years apart. I'm going to show you kind of the differences and the variations in the uniform as far as the buttons go and how the pattern is and how the coloration is and all of that other good stuff. And of course, we are going to be comparing this very, very versatile uniform to the American M81 BDUs. They served at the same time frame, actually, for quite a long period of time. Obviously, the BDUs coming out in 1982. For the most part, 81, you kind of see them adopted. 82, they finally start reaching troops. So like 81, this would have been in service with Finland in 1981. And well, basically past the time BDUs were stopping being issued and started to be replaced with all the new digital stuff in the American whole military spectrum of camouflage adoption that doesn't make sense. So we're going to flip the camera around here, take a look at this uniform, some of the kind of nuances and all the other cool little stuff about it, and compare it to the M81 uniform. So stay tuned. Alrighty, so here we have the M81 BDU on the left and the M62 oversuit here on the right. So we're going to compare the two. Obviously, they are both developed from kind of the same generation of uniforms. That kind of 60s era of uniforms and everything like that. They're both made out of a mostly cotton material and known for fading, relatively durable. Not a uniform that's meant to be prolonged life in service. They both fade. They both need to be maintained and stuff like that quite regularly. Just having to do with how the fabric is. So I said I had two M62 blouses and stuff, which I do have here for you to compare together. We're going to start at the cuffs, obviously. So the M62 has a double button closure on the cuff. It only has one level of closure, so it's either closed or open. It has a little bit of a gusset, a couple inches. That's about it. Nothing really fancy or frills there. The M81 obviously has a button cuff closure, as we've seen in previous videos, where it is adjustable for different amounts of open around your wrist. Moving up from there, you can see the closure of these uniforms is both a 5-button closure. Same thing on they're both a lay-down lapel style collar. The M62 does not have any reinforced elbows or anything, whereas the M81 does have an extra layer of fabric to help, pad the elbows and prolong the life of the uniform. The M81 obviously has 4 pockets on the outside. They're just square pockets with dual button closures on each of the pockets. A little bit of a pen pouch or a sunglasses pouch or something up here on the left breast pocket. The M62 does actually have 4 pockets. They are not all accessible at one time, though. So you can see this one here has the right chest pocket on the camo side, so it's on the right-hand side of the uniform. And then there is nothing down here on the right side of the uniform near the waist, but it is reversed on the left side of the uniform. You can see there is a big, huge dual button closure, just square bellowed pocket down by the waist, and then there is the no pocket up here on the left side of the uniform. Now, some of these uniforms, it's reversed, where the pocket will be, the chest pocket will be on the right rather than on the left. And vice versa with the waist pockets as well. Now this one is a later one, as you can see here by these cotton fabric strips here. It allows you to tie stuff to the uniform. The Finns are really, really big on tying stuff to the uniform. It allows you to carry a lot of extra equipment by just having string. By giving troops string, you can tie magazines to you, landmines, anything else, anything under the sun, hand grenades, all of it. You could tie everything to your uniform or your equipment. Which is why the Finns have a lot of these kind of loops around their uniform. Obviously, you could run a belt through it if you wanted to or something. It gives you a lot of versatility just by sewing these loops onto the uniform. Not all of the M62 uniforms will have these loops. Now, as you can see here, this one is unissued, actually, and there's still color variations in it. So this pocket is made out of different colored fabric than the rest of the blouse, which is just how it happened to work. It all has the blue-gray stitching and the blue-gray buttons, what's known as stone gray in Finnish inventory, which is a very old color going all the way back to pre-World War I, actually. And then you see the single button closure up here on the outer edge of the pocket. This one is an unissued one, actually. It does have the cutter's tags still on it and all the various panels there, as you can see here. And here is where they would stamp the size and the tag and the acceptance mark on the inside of the lapel here. This one's made by VPU. It's a size 52, and it was accepted in 1971, according to that stamp. A lot of these stamps have, usually washed off by now. They are just little ink stamps. They will come out. You can see that this uniform is entirely reversible to white. And that is where the other pockets are. So it does have 4 pockets, but they're all internal. The other ones are internal. So you can see now that the left waist pocket, so when you're wearing the uniform and you turn this whole thing inside out, which I'm not going to pull the sleeves through or anything right now. Like you can see here, the uniform. Then you can see where the stamp would be designed to wash off, obviously, because you don't want to have those numbers sitting on you. But you can see, again, upper left pocket, still on the left. You can see the bottom right waist pocket. That's just how it is. And you still have these loops stitched onto the uniform. So nothing fancy going on the back, just like the M81, other than there is 2 little sets of loops on the back. It is the same way on the inside, on the over white winter side, flipped around. So, but it's pretty neat that this is an unissued one. You can see the hooks there for attaching a hood, the buttons for attaching a hood, your 5 buttons. And now we get into the much older uniform. Same thing, it's an M62 uniform. Same exact stuff, 2 button closures on the cuff. Same 5 buttons up the front. It is reversible, still the stone gray buttons, the plastic buttons, except now the pockets are reversed. The left chest pocket is on the spring side, so this one is reversed. The pocket setup's reversed. So the waist pocket and the chest pockets just flop sides, and they'll be that way even inside out. Now this one, it's been washed quite a lot. As you can see, the white side has faded a lot, including the green side actually has faded quite a lot. But you can see the variances in the colors of the M62 uniform and how much they varied. How this one's much kind of redder, and this one's kind of a much more plummish purple color in the dark spots. This one's much more yellower. This one's kind of whiter in the light spots, and the green is about the same. But you just see variances like that all over with the M62 uniform. So in the M91 uniform actually really kind of consolidated that, and the patterns were all made to a very set thing, and they were much more consistent in color. But other than that, it was pretty much the same uniform. This one, as you can see, on the inside of the lapel, there is no size. It was all washed off on this one. It's not present on this older uniform, but it is still reversible to white entirely, all the way through. Same exact pocket setup and everything. Nothing fancy on it. This one does have a few repairs, and the Finns didn't really use green thread to repair their uniforms. They all had this stone gray thread. That would have been the same thread they would have used on the wool uniform, either for the M36 or the later M65. It's very common to see repairs on Finnish uniforms done with this gray thread rather than thread that makes sense for either of the patterns. You see gray thread used quite a lot, and the uniforms are actually even stitched with gray thread. So, and obviously the buttons are gray, and that's just kind of how it all works. So that's the M62 blouse. Once again, you know, this one, the buttons are kind of broken or taken off on this one. It is much older. You could even see the much older style of buttons. They're much thicker than on the newer uniform, where the collar, the hood would have attached to the uniform. So it's just a neat little piece, and it's actually a very versatile, very hard-wearing uniform. It's kind of like almost a shelter cloth. It's relatively wind and water resistant. It is kind of a synthetic. It's not 100% cotton type uniform. But that covers the blouse comparison to the M81. So we're going to flip over and take a look at the trousers now. Okay, so we have the trousers here now. And as per usual with the trousers, we are going to go from cuff to waist, and right now we're looking at basically the front side of both of these pairs of trousers, and then we'll flip over and look at the back side of the trousers because they are folded in half. So obviously the M62 uniform does have these little, as you can see here, loops for putting a band through to adjust the cuff, to tighten it, string, leather strap, whatever you want to go through to adjust them. The M81 BDU uniform has the little nylon ties. It's basically the same thing, but it's just a self-contained unit, all in one. Okay, moving up from there, you can see the M62 uniform, no reinforced knee or anything like that. The M81 BDU does have the reinforced knee, just an extra layer of fabric. It's not ergonomically shaped or anything. These are both very straight cut pairs of trousers and everything like that. Moving up to the pocket on the M81 BDU. Once again, we've gone over this before. It is a triple pleated double button closure pocket. It's very, very large. It has very good carrying capacity. It's pretty user friendly. There is one on either side of the M81 BDU pants. On the M62 pants, there is a big square, no pleated at all. So it's just a flat pocket. Okay. 2-button closure, just square pocket, okay? And there is only one on one side of the pants, okay? Because the other side doesn't have one because it's on the reverse side. Because once again, the trousers of the M62 uniform, much like the blouse, are reversible. So there's only one pocket per side of the pants. So there's 2 pockets, but one pocket will be inaccessible on the inside, depending on whatever side you're wearing out. Then there is a big kind of hole here to go into your regular uniform pocket rather than actually having a pocket itself. It's just a big slash, but it is kind of marrowed really nicely on both sides, so you know it's not going to wear out super fast and everything like that. The M81 obviously does have its own self-contained pocket made with the same material as the rest of the uniform. It's an actual real pocket, which is nice. And then the M62 uniform, no belt loops or anything, okay? It has a button closure up the front, button fly. It's 3 buttons up the front, and then the closure is a drawstring, a cotton drawstring here inside the waistband of the pants, or it'd be the outside of the pants if you are wearing it on the winter side. Once again, here is the tag for that, and this pair of pants was adopted in '77. By the Finnish Defense Forces. The M81 does have belt loops. They are 1.5 inch wide belt loops, and they do have these little kind of adjustable M buckles as well if you don't have a belt to kind of gather the waist a little bit. But they do cut into you and they do kind of get in the way. So, so now we'll flip the pants over and take a look at the other side here. So this is the back side of the pants for the most part. And we'll do the same thing with the BDUs here. So obviously, not much has changed. The back side of the M62 uniform, you can see where the pocket is sewn in place for the inside, so that way you have a pocket accessible when you are wearing it in the winter configuration, which would be this turned inside out, which is very versatile, but you do only have access to one pocket on the pants at any given moment, which kind of sucks. No reinforced seat or anything like these, anything like the M81. The M81 does have this reinforced seat, extra layer fabric you can see. It does have rear pockets, which are, again, 2-button closure, big flaps on the top. The M62 does not have any rear pockets at all, no reinforced seat. It's meant to be kind of a cheap-to-make over uniform. It's to provide camouflage for the spring and summer and the fall and winter, you know, stuff like that. With its 2 reversible patterns, you know, being an over white and then this 3-color pattern you see here. It was meant to be used and abused, you know, cheap to make, and then it would be just replaced when it was worn out very, very easily. They hold up well in the wash. They do tear quite easily. They're not a super strong fabric, but they are a relatively heavy fabric, which is going to provide some durability. But they're meant to be worn over the uniform. They're just meant to provide concealment rather than actually be like a standalone uniform. You do see a lot of guys in the summer, though, wearing just this uniform. You know, or not a lot of pairs, you know, or very much pairs of pants or anything underneath it, especially the blouse. Oftentimes the pants, in order to have access to all the pockets you would need, like your slash pockets, you would need to wear your normal M36 or M65 trousers underneath the over pants here. But you see a lot of guys in the summer in the blouse, they'd just be wearing their t-shirt, you know, or their summer tunic underneath the over camouflage, or even sometimes no shirt at all under the blouse, just to provide that breathability and that comfort, because it's actually a very nice fabric. It's quite soft, it's very quiet, it works quite well, and everything like that. And it's not a uniform that a lot of people really know about, but it's a really effective uniform, and it's an idea that was kind of copied the world over. It was adopted a lot from the Russians. The Russians are kind of the masters of oversuits. You provide everybody one uniform. There's usually a naval uniform, and then there is a army uniform, and everybody gets the same uniform. Okay, one of those 2 examples, depending on whether you're naval infantry or a, you know, sailor, and then you get a different uniform, you know, if you're part of the army or, you know, a tanker or anything like that. You get your wool uniform, your base wool uniform, and then you change your concealment with a bunch of different oversuits for every different environment, and, you know, the 11 time zones that Russia covers, and even more in the Soviet Union and stuff like that, you know, and for different times of the year and different weathers, you know, you would have different, you know, types of uniforms and oversuits made out of different materials for different things. And it was much cheaper than trying to make a uniform for every single one of those seasons and environments and regions. You know, it's much easier to make a bunch of thin, chintzy oversuits, you know, that can just go over a standard uniform. So you make your standard uniform really nice and really durable and presentable and ergonomic and stuff, and then you just give people different oversuits depending on what time of the year it is and where they're going. And it's much easier and cheaper that way, and actually really, really effective to do it. That wasn't really something that caught on a lot in the West. They would like to have standalone uniforms that would perform as many tasks as possible in as many environments as possible, but the Russians really kind of took the whole oversuit to heart, and the Finns did their own. And this one, like I said, would continue to serve from 1962, which is the adoption of their basically first ever camouflage pattern other than Snow White's, which I don't really consider a camouflage pattern because it's just white. But this is really their first like camouflage pattern, adopted in 1962, used until the 2000s, basically until 2005. This pattern was used and replaced. This uniform was used until it was replaced, which is just how something super, I mean, something that works, you know, oftentimes doesn't get replaced very quickly. And this uniform served 50 years, you know, which is a really long time. It's a really, really long time. And a lot of people don't seem to realize that. You know, because a uniform serving, 10 to 20 years is considered a really old uniform, and this served for 50 years, so they must have got something right, Finland, or they had no money to replace it. One of the two. But that's up for you guys to decide whether you like this uniform or not, or if it's something cool you didn't know about, or if it has a cool history you didn't know about, or an origin, or something like that, or what it's like compared to a uniform I hope just about everyone has had any experience with, the American BDU uniform. So hopefully you like this thing. You subscribe if you learned something, or if you have any additional information, or if you have one of these uniforms and you've used it, or you have a kind of slightly different one compared to what I have or something like that, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about stuff like that. And hopefully I can see all of you here in the next video. Bye-bye now.